Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of the Record Low Rollers podcast. I'm Tyler, your host, here with itinerant DM and friend, Jeffrey Cowart. Jeffrey, how are you?
I'm doing great, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for driving up here. I know your home base is a little ways off.
No,
a little ways off.
15 minutes. It ain't a big deal.
That's true. You're not wrong. How's your DM life been, man?
My DM life has recently kind of been in a rut, but I put myself there for a reason, and I can go into it if you want.
Yeah, please. I'm intrigued.
I realized I needed to slow down a bit.
Yeah?
I was running 2 games for a while, and they were both going all right, but I started finding myself a little frustrated with both my players and myself. And
I understand how that can be.
I was getting towards burnout. I was on the edge, looking over into the burnout realm, and I decided to halt myself pretty hard, slow down. So instead of running 2 games every week, I'm running a game every week and rotating them.
Well, that's nice. That's very nice.
Yeah, and I think it's important to do that because, I also work full-time, and so it can be a little daunting of a task to make sure 2 different groups of people are having fun, and they're 2 very different groups as well.
So tell me about your games. I remember I played in your Curse of Strahd game for a few weeks that I really, really loved.
Yeah.
How has that been since I was prohibited from continuing due to scheduling circumstances?
Yeah. Well, first off, scheduling circumstances are the bane of everybody in the D&D world.
Yeah. I wish time didn't exist.
Yeah, and we miss you a lot. In that game, I have had to kind of stop running Curse of Strahd for the reason that my players have also all gotten busy with their own lives.
And I know that Curse of Strahd is a super It's a heavy setting, and it's hard to just jump in.
It is, yeah, and it's story-driven. So if you have people, like you said, jumping in, and they'll be asking you, all right, so who's this? Why are we here? What's going on? Why am I here? What's my motivation?
Absolutely.
And it got to the point where I was like, guys, this doesn't make sense anymore. And that game was more of like what's kind of known as like a beer and pretzels game.
Yeah.
You just kind of show up with dice and you're mostly there to cut up with your friends.
Yeah.
And I chose a module that it's not good to do that in. You kind of have to be like, someone has to take notes. Someone has to understand like all the characters and the complexities. And that was something that group wasn't willing to do, not because they're like not good people or anything, not good players. I think one thing DMs have to do definitely is know your players.
Absolutely. You got to manage those expectations, both on your side of the DM screen and on their side. Know what your players want.
Yeah, and while it was fun to like kind of mess around in Ravenloft and screw around in Barovia, which having a comedy-based group in Barovia kind of did help break that gloom, doom setting.
Absolutely.
A little bit. It was fun, but one day I would like to come back to it and run it as like an actual story-driven campaign.
I ran my fiance through it as a one-on-one game with like a proto sidekick, the UA sidekicks that they put out. She was a Hexblade Warlock working her way through Barovia, and man, it's a really intense game when you're in that intimate of a setting. Just player and DM, it can get pretty spooky.
I've never had that, but yeah, I can imagine.
It's pretty nice. I recommend it if you and your player are comfortable playing one-on-one, because there have been times where it's hard to find a group. I'm sure you understand.
Yeah.
So, that was that game. The game that I was a part of for a little while. A lot of fun. But yeah, definitely beer and pretzels. Mm-hmm. How about your other game? You said they're very different players. Are they more narrative?
Yeah, the other game is with some people my age. The other game, everyone's like a few years younger than me. Mm-hmm. But in this one, they're more my age. And it's not like we're hanging out for sure, but they're definitely not like constantly cutting up. They're involved in the story.
Yeah.
And it was them that I kind of like put that energy into.
Gotcha. So you put that out as an expectation for them to live up to, essentially?
Yes. And they've done a pretty good job. I did, however, take another wrong turn with the module, kind of, and I chose Storm King's Thunder.
I've never played it. I haven't even read it. What's that like?
Well, for those who don't know, it's basically you versus giants.
Okay, yeah.
And so it has a lot of really cool, like, Nordic themes in it. And, you know, there's a lot of different characters. There's a lot of different subplots going on, because essentially what's happened is the giants have gone crazy, and they're starting to be more brazen in their attacks on, like, the small folk, which is regular folk,
like normal people.
Yeah, like normal people. And
Gotcha.
you know, the group is essentially trying to figure out, you know, what's going on here. And there's a lot of giant fights. There's some dragon fights, and
that's cool. They're like ancestral enemies, right? Giants
Exactly.
and dragons in D&D.
Yeah, and so you're like the party's trying to figure out what's going on while at the same time not getting crushed.
Gotcha.
You know, and like pretty much every place in Faerun is just, or in the Sword Coast is essentially just like
full of giants.
Yeah, it's full of giants. It's like there are giants everywhere, and people are getting taken, killed, and eaten, and it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there a lot of set piece fights? Because that sounds more like a game for beer and pretzel players. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, sometimes I wish I kind of flipped around.
I get
for
that.
sure, especially as Halloween kind of approaches. I'm sad Curse of Strahd isn't going on anymore. So I feel like that's the module I'll run this group through, because I'm about to go through a move, so I'm probably not going to be playing with a second group as much. But this other one that's going through Storm King's Thunder, we do have plans to continue on after I move. So
that's awesome.
You know,
how do you intend to keep that up? You guys going to
good
do
old
like,
internets,
like Skype or Discord?
Discord.
That's a solid move. Skype is historically not great. I've tried to run a couple friends through a Skype game once. A buddy of mine, he moved to Knoxville to go to law school, and he tried to Skype in to a live play group, and he was just like, it's not the same at all, which makes me sad. So I'm not sure if I want to keep doing it. And he didn't after a little while, but that group kind of disbanded.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways. So yeah, there was a lot of different characters and plots, and culminating with my frustrations with the other group, I was just headed towards Burnoutville. So I paused. I took 3 weeks off.
Very nice.
From all DMing. It was really cool. I just sat on my couch and, you know, read some D&D books here and there, but, you know, mostly played Skyrim because I'm still on that.
I mean, I am right there with you. I actually picked up Skyrim on the Switch because I am a capitalist dog.
Right.
I can't help it.
Slaves to Todd Howard. Anyway, but yeah, I and plus I can mod it on the Xbox, so it's almost like adding in people's own adventures as like DLCs. It's really cool.
That's really cool.
But this isn't a Skyrim podcast.
That's true.
So that's
they're
kind
tangentially attached,
fantasy and all that jazz.
Exactly.
But I took 3 weeks off, and I'm back in it now, kind of slowly rolling back into it, and I'm better.
You're better?
Yeah, I'm not like I've gained power, but I've calmed myself.
I would argue that they're the same. You know, you take a little bit of time off, you recenter, you reprioritize, and then you come back and you're a better DM to the players that you have been playing with.
I think so far that's been the case, and it's just it's a nice return to the norm.
It's really fulfilling, I'm sure.
Yeah, because I was just getting mad. I just found myself sitting in the chair like, why aren't my players asking me questions about this right now? Why are they just breezing through this? You know, why did I go through all this time writing out this NPC for them not to even ask them a question? You know, and then I realized, why am I doing this to myself? You know,
yeah.
I need to reevaluate where my players are at.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And play not really in their way, but in our way, you know?
Yeah. That's important. It's collaborative. as the DM, there is a certain expectation that, like, yeah, you come to sit down at my table, huge air quotes.
Yeah.
That, you know, you're kind of met in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like to, a DM can't play by themselves.
That's called writing a book.
Yeah, it's called writing a book. And if anyone's a fan of like the show Community, there was an episode where they played D&D. I think there was 2 different episodes where they did it. In the second one, at the very end, the character Aved was just playing D&D with all these stuffed animals and doing like moves and voices for them.
Yeah.
Until he was told to, it was in the middle of the night, go to bed, and it's just rocks fall, everyone dies, good night. But like, you can't do that. It's crazy. So you have to have players, and you also have to remind yourself you are not the end all be all of DMs. So
exactly.
The players are probably like, well, why isn't he giving me this right now? Why am I not getting more combat or more role play situations? And there's always something someone's not getting, and they're okay with it because it's cool.
Yeah.
And the second you start thinking, why am I not getting my thing? That's where your frustrations lie.
Absolutely. That's how DMs get burnt out. They start doing exactly that.
So I'm glad to be back in the swing of things, and I also found myself really wanted to play a character.
What kind of character are you thinking about, man?
So honestly, I have always loved characters that break common fantasy tropes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like there's totally room for the Holy Cleric and the Gallant Knight, and the
mysterious warlock.
Exactly.
That sort of
like there's so much room for that, but there is also room for the not so ordinary. Monks come to mind a lot.
Monks are the big outlier in 5e, in my opinion.
Absolutely, they are. I mean, until the mystic becomes written in. Psionics are the big one, and they have been for generations, in my opinion. Oh yeah. Even the Artificer is a little wacky and out there, and I'm actually excited for that release. I think it's happening in November.
Yeah.
So really excited to see what all they pull from there. But yeah, characters that break the common fantasy trope is stuff that my heart lies in, because I love kind of proving to people that they can fit just as much as the knight and the bard can fit.
Yeah. Is there anyone that springs to mind in particular?
What do you mean?
Like which character do you have in mind currently? Like you said, you want to play a character. Do you have like a particular trope breaker in mind?
Well, I mean, I like any DM who's been DMing longer than they've been playing, they have a binder of characters waiting on the sidelines for that
waiting
chance.
in the wings to be rolled.
Exactly. Yeah. And a couple that I have, for one, I have the Aging Monk.
The Aging Monk?
The Aging Monk is someone who is starting to go a little senile.
Oh, like that kind of aging, not just like 40s. We're talking like
exactly, like kind of Master Roshi.
Gotcha.
Minus the pervy stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a sort of old man who he's an old man, but he can still rock your world.
Yeah. Master Roshi absolutely comes to mind, like a Sun Soul monk, absolutely losing his mind, just like. Blasts everywhere.
Yeah, like here's how you do it.
Oh god,
the lasers just kind of shoot out. Yeah, that's fun. I was actually thinking more like open hand, because I really like the
battlefield control.
The battlefield control. That's more my play style. Like I in World of Warcraft, I love like the control and heals kind of play style.
Yeah.
And since monks aren't really going to get any healing till Way of Tranquility happens.
I wonder how that's even going to work.
No, it won't. It's not going to happen. I mean, they may throw in a heal monk at some point, but it's not going to be Tranquility.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah. So the open hand kind of is this sort of like my body is a weapon. Kind of deal. Like I'm sheathed up until the point where you make me have to act, and I love that, and I kind of want to combine it with this sort of like senile old man, who has like bits of wisdom, but is also just like crazy.
Those bits of wisdom are buried in oceans of insanity.
Exactly. Yeah. Like so, they only come out in like moments of clarity. And then the other character is totally like opposite of physical confrontation, and is actually a warlock who is the great old one. And see, what had happened was he is more of like an alien abductee.
Oh,
Who
God.
comes back and is just constantly like, everything is. He's a tinfoil hat wearing like conspiracy theorist.
Gotcha.
Who's convinced that he was probed, all that jazz by
Lord.
by aliens and stuff, who like implanted psychic powers in him, which is where he gets his spells. He found a ray gun up on the ship when he was trying to escape, which is spell casting focused for Eldritch Blast.
That's amazing.
Exactly, right? Yeah, and so stuff like that,
I love that exact kind of reflavoring, honestly. Like,
oh yeah, flavor. Flavor.
This is my spellcasting focus, and it's just a gun, and I'm gonna blast you with Eldritch Blast from this gun.
Exactly, and if anyone else tries to take it, they can't. Their minds aren't as attuned to it as he is.
It's literally
just
non-functional.
Exactly, it's non-functional because the aliens gave him some kind of psychic power able to motivate it. Now, if the mystic was in existence, this character would probably be more of a mystic. But
Heard that.
Yeah, or if the I think it's the Aberrant Mind sorcerer just came out.
Yeah.
So
Big
probably
fan.
it would be that if that was official. But I think Great Old One Warlock is cool.
Same.
And
Same. I'm a big fan of the great old ones in general.
Gosh, Lovecraft.
Exactly. I love the mythos. Not sure about the guy.
Yeah, the guy.
The guy was way out there, man.
Not just way out there, like just one of
Also,
the worst
just
people.
horrible.
One of the worst people ever. But man, if he didn't write a good story,
he knew what it was like to be absolutely on the outside of everything, but also like totally brandished that knowledge against everyone else on the outside.
Yeah, and
horrible.
You almost
horrible
wonder.
human.
You almost wonder if he was telling the truth about everything. If he actually believed what he was writing.
I get that. He's so vivid, and he uses words like sanguine. So
gosh.
like he has to be onto something, right?
Yeah. Something touched his mind, and it hasn't been the same since, kind of deal.
Exactly. Did you read the other subclass in that same article with Aberrant Mind, the Lurker in the Deep Warlock?
Lurker in the Deep Warlock. Yeah, someone on Wizards of the Coast definitely read some Lovecraft and was
Bunch of
like, why
Lovecraft.
aren't we doing more of this?
They're like, we have great old ones. Why not more of that, but
Exactly,
different?
because, I mean, what is a great old one? Like, well, it's anything you kind of create in the spur of the moment. It's easier to create a great old one than it is to create a god in a DM setting. Because if you're coming into a DM's game, you want to be respectful of their setting. So whenever you do character creation, you want to talk to them about what's good. But really, a great old one is something that, like, you don't have to think about this DM. I'm gonna think about it, and it's not gonna mess your world up because they're like on that far realm of existence.
They are where dreams live.
Yeah, where they're in the fifth dimension kind of deal, but they're seeing 9 of them. It's that crazy.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I one of my first 5e game. One of my favorite PCs that I ran for was a Tiefling Great Old One Warlock who saw Shub-Niggurath, like, just pulled, like, something from actual mythos. Saw Shub-Niggurath in the midst of a horrible, horrible trip. They're just like, yeah, I'm out in the woods, or rather, I'm out in the
Dreamlands.
Kinda, yeah. He was in this like deserty setting, and he's like, yeah, I found myself in like a cactus field, and I just tripped ass so hard that I got picked up by a great old one, and then I woke up and I was sober, and I haven't touched anything for a while, but I keep doing these weird things like this and shooting Eldritch Blasts.
Yeah,
super fun character.
Really good. Yeah, anytime that your character goes beyond like, I've been training up until this moment, and here I am now ready to adventure. Like that's fun to do in and of its own right. But if you want, in my opinion, a memorable character, it's someone who starts off out of the box.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like, I did not mean for this to happen, and I'm blundering into adventure.
Because honestly, like, what kind of crazy SOB wants to be an adventurer?
Yeah, exactly. I forget. I keep bumping this fucking microphone. I forget what it was. I think it might be Shadowrun, where it's like, yeah, all the PCs are outsiders of society.
Yeah.
I think that's super telling. Like, normal people would not want to interact with adventurers. They bring death.
Yeah, they bring death. You know, I'm fortunate that I haven't ever had a murder hobo party. I feel like that would drive me insane. But you know, for those who don't know, a murder hobo is an adventurer, and they are a hobo because they have no set home, because they are just wandering from one place to the next, gathering quests. But they usually end up killing more than they need to.
Including the quest giver.
The quest giver, because, I don't trust them all of a sudden. Roll initiative. They're dead because I'm, level 8 and they're a commoner.
They have 4 HP.
Yeah.
And I have a +5
I'm going to look meanly in their direction and they will fall dead,
Generally, that's how it starts to go after a little while until, DM fiat, hey.
You've suddenly run across a level 30 paladin. Exactly. I guess you guys are screwed. Roll initiative for the last time and then get out of my house.
That's a big part of why I like the inexorables. Do you have much, did you get a chance to look in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes? There's one inexorable in there called the Marut. It's like a time cop.
No, I didn't get a chance to memorize the Mordenkainen's.
There's it's like the only one in this edition thus far, but in previous editions, like 2nd edition, they were like cops for Primus on the lawful neutral plane. They're like, yeah, we're gonna go and hunt down people who are resurrected too many times, people who break contracts, shit like that. Yeah, you get a murder hobo party. A Marut's like CR26. Yeah, just put them in time jail forever on Primus, the lawful neutral plane. It's a good way to circumvent shitty players. Shitty players here meaning like players who play in bad faith, not people who are playing the game in a way that you don't think is correct. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because there is no right way to play this game, but there's a ton of wrong ways.
Yeah.
Playing to win.
Playing to win is wrong.
Because you can't win. Like, the DM wins, technically, because they control the whole board, always.
Yeah, that's a super militaristic way to play.
And they set up everything for you. So, like, the players can win against the DM's
set encounters, but, there's always more encounters.
Yeah, there's, I can always say, and here's a Trask.
Exactly.
Are you winning yet? I don't think so.
Man, so how long have you been playing D&D? Like, we're sitting here chatting about it, but
I'm going on my 2nd year.
Wow, only your 2nd year. Did you jump in as DM?
Yeah.
Never played a player. No, never played a character.
No,
holy shit, man.
Yeah, I know. I had a lot of my friends who had already played before, asked me, like, do you want me to DM? I can help you. Because I was kind of asking all my friends, like, do you guys want to start a D&D game?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm doing this. So I did what every good noob does and grabbed the starter kit with the Lost Mines of Phandelver Adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read through the basic rules, understood them to a point, and just started this adventure with 9 players.
9 players in your first game.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Well, you see, the thing is, at the time, I didn't realize it was a sin.
I mean, I hesitate to call it a sin, but it can get rough.
Yeah.
It can get rough.
And at times it did, but luckily it was with the Beer and Pretzel group.
Yeah.
So we were all kind of like,
have fun playing the game.
Yeah, the whole time.
Terribly interested in the NPCs.
Yeah, no one but me did a voice.
Gotcha.
Is the kind of deal.
Was it all like third person, like Garrock swings his axe, or is it just like I swing my axe? Or did it kind of vacillate back and forth?
Yeah. Well, actually, honestly, I think it was all like kind of first person. Everyone else was pretty much new, except for a couple players, and they were all just like asking me what was a D20.
I mean, new players, man. New players. It's identifying the polyhedrals can be a little tough in the moment.
Yeah,
I understand, but the D20 is the only like ball shaped one.
Yeah, like Nick, come on, guys, please. It's always the D20.
It's always the D20.
I can't say, like, how many times I've had to say that. It's always the D20. Unless, like, there's only a couple times you're not. you're never going to roll percentile. If you're rolling for a percentile, you've done something wrong.
If you're rolling percentile, you stepped into Call of Cthulhu.
Yes, and you know, if you're in damage, it's only those times, guys. You know.
Yeah,
But
essentially.
new players will eventually get through that, and you won't have to tell them anymore. And that's a really great moment when they already know what they're rolling.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've started a couple groups myself. I was that itinerant DM for a long time.
And honestly, I think it's a good service.
I agree. There are people who do this for money, man, and
Yeah.
I understand how they can do it. Like it's hard to find DMs. It feels like
It is, because a lot of people when they play, they bring their dice if they have dice in the first place. So they bring their dice. They show up with their character sheet. They know exactly what they want to do with this character, and they roll dice, and they just kind of follow along. And a DM is there kind of looking like they have 50 different plot lines going at the same time.
yeah.
They've written the beginning, middle, and they have a tentative end, and they're constantly sweating bullets about how they're going to get to that end.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the same time, writing NPCs that aren't just like Bob from the shop.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. You're trying to give your NPCs some personality.
Some life, you
Yeah.
know. You want to make this world feel like it's lived in, and it's not a simulation of a world.
Verisimilitude, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times players will come in thinking this is Skyrim.
Yeah.
Because the Elder Scrolls and Dragon Age and the like are what people normally have as their fantasy background.
Yep.
And so they come in with a video game background of, I'm going to kill everything, level up, and
rob everything.
And just continue to acquire wealth and power until I win.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough, man. That's why session zeros are so important, because you got to break those inclinations.
It's important, but sometimes players just can't until, you know, a few sessions go by and they realize they're not the main character. Everyone at the table is the main character.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then when
absolutely.
you're a master level DM, they aren't even the main character. There's another main character somewhere else that's doing his own thing that they will interact with at some point, and they are just the instigators.
I've always wanted to try a game like that. Like try to run a game so intricately that, like, yeah, there's a chosen one out there, and you guys are gonna help him do what he needs to do to save the world, and otherwise you are nobodies.
Yeah.
You are rat catchers.
Yeah, or you know, run two games and both parties like influence the same world at the same time.
I'm actually kind of doing that right now in a play-by-post game.
Oh,
I've
interesting.
got one. I'm trying to start it with Dalton. So desperately, like he's busy. He's in seminary, and but that friend of mine who went to law school, in Knoxville, and we're playing on Facebook. It's one unified setting, but I want them in the same world, not like, you know, same setting, two different instances, but the same one. And man, it's tough. It is tough.
Oh yeah, it's hard to keep track of one party.
Yeah. And I mean, it's only one person. And there's like a log. You can go back and read it all, but still, like,
All right, but one person can make a billion different choices that affect a billion different things, you know, and
yeah, absolutely.
thrown into it's all of a sudden, you know, one guy leaves a village, next guy comes and burns it down, and then you have to deal with that.
Like, every person you met back there is either dead or fled.
And you're like, what happened? You're like, I don't know. I guess there's another guy. Yeah.
And then that comes
And then the
to
crossover episode happens.
yeah, where they're antagonists or, you know,
Tentative allies.
tentative allies is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Like,
That's about your basic D&D party. It's just tentative allies.
yeah, absolutely. So you've been DMing for 2 years.
Yeah.
What made you want to start DMing?
You know, honestly, it was a bunch of different mediums and how they had like mentions of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So, all right, the first inclination I had of Dungeons and Dragons was just knowing that it was connected with nerds and something about demon worship.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so
the whole
I was,
satanic panic.
Yeah, and I was born in the 90s, so I was after the satanic panic, but it was just sort of like the legacy it left behind.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, this is a nerd thing for nerds, and I'm not really into it, so I'm not even going to look into it. And I just didn't. And I love board games and stuff, and like video games. So, it's almost that sort of cross breed that I never just went to that bridge of tabletop. And all right, so, fast forward to college, and I hear of like a group at college that I'm still not into it. So fast forward to after college, and I'm like, you know what? I've seen a couple episodes of I've seen the 2 community episodes where they play D&D and and I came across Critical Role. And I watched a few episodes of that.
Every conversation like this. It's my favorite part of most conversations like this.
And I watched a few episodes and I was hooked. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. And then I watched a couple of YouTube videos of how to play.
Yeah.
And one really great one I came across was 10 reasons why you should play D&D.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know who it was by? It sounds like
Cosmonaut Variety.
Cosmonaut Variety.
He kind of makes a hodgepodge of different kinds of videos, but
the username sounds very familiar. I've almost certainly watched some videos.
I feel like he's up and coming, and he's he runs his own D&D game, but he also does movie reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very good, and his video was just that kind of final push. So I was like, you know what, I should. And then one of the reasons he did was how to do it on a low budget, and that's kind of what I was at the time, and so I just sort of watched until I was super duper interested and kept going back to Critical Role for episodes. I'm still behind. I'll probably always be behind because they're 4 hours long and I can't watch them.
No one has time for a full episode. No one in our shoes.
Yeah, exactly. So I've just watched that whenever I had time and fell in love with the hobby and got my fraternity to play.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, and just got us all to cut loose and be nerds together, and it was awesome.
And that's super hard to do, being able to get people in your life who've never done it before to do it.
And I think, honestly, I think it's because everyone has that sort of knowledge of it.
Yeah, everybody knows what
Dungeons
and Dragons is.
And if you have people in your life who are just kind of screw it kind of people, I can cut loose for a night and try it, and if I don't like it, I don't have to come back.
Exactly. Exactly. And then there's no buy-in. Usually your DM will give you a set of dice, be hey, here's the dice that you need for tonight.
Yeah. Luckily, the couple players who had played before had their own collection of dice, as you are wont to do when you start this hobby.
Bags
on bags. And so they supplied people with the dice, and we all just sat around and had a good time.
Yeah, I mean that's what it's really about. All this talk about plots and NPCs and encounter design. It's so secondary to the fun. Yeah, absolutely. So you have some roots in Critical Role. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of talk recently about the Mercer effect.
Aha.
Which, as a DM myself, and players who love Critical Role, that's certainly something that comes up.
I find it funny. All right, so the Mercer effect for the uninitiated. Matthew Mercer is an acclaimed voice actor. If you look up Matthew Mercer and you look up his history, he is on so much more than you would ever believe. And honestly, the whole cast of Critical Role is in so many video games, animes, cartoons, you name it, their voices behind it.
Yeah.
It's and they're all beautiful people too, so it's kind of funny. What are you guys doing? Go out there and be regular actors. But
Ashley does. She's on Blind Spot.
Oh yeah, that's true. And so these group of voice actors, they get together to play Dungeons and Dragons, and Matthew Mercer is their DM, and he does really great voices for NPCs, and he writes really great stories, and he even makes a few homebrew classes.
I think Blood Hunter's amazing.
Someone had to make a good gunslinger.
Eventually. I mean, I think Percy is a great character, and I think that gunslinger, because it emulates the Pathfinder gunslinger.
Oh, yeah. And that's where they came from. They started in Pathfinder, and then when 5e came out, that's what they moved into.
Sorry about that break right there. Our audio cut out. We were talking about Pathfinder.
Yeah, the Critical Role crew started off in Pathfinder.
Yeah.
And they moved to 5e. And so that's where a lot of like there's some confusion you can see in their first few episodes where they switched. And the Gunslinger is one that didn't exist in 5e. So
Matthew Mercer just built it himself, which is amazing.
Okay, but anyway, getting back to, like, he does all these great plots. He does all these great voices. People getting into the hobby for the first time, they look at that and they're like, so that's what a DM is. All right. And they go to their DM's game, all excited. They're ready to be involved in intrigue and whatnot. And the DM doesn't live up to their expectations, in quotation marks. And their only expectation is this professional voice actor who gets paid to do D&D.
Yeah. Which most people aren't.
They aren't. No, I would actually fair to say like 99%.
Yeah,
of DMs are
almost
not that.
All of them are not that. However, there are some who get paid for it.
Oh yeah.
But they aren't professional voice actors. Mm-hmm. I feel like the Critical Role equation is
unique,
incredibly unique, and that's why it's so popular.
Yeah, it is, and honestly, it's a great version of D&D.
Absolutely.
And I think people they get in their heads that every DM must be Matthew Mercer or not be a DM, and that is the Mercer effect that a lot of people talk about, but honestly, I feel like the Mercer effect was always there.
Yeah. It just finally had a name.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just a lack of understanding expectations.
Yeah.
That's what it really boils down to. And I feel like it's people who come in taking it too seriously.
Yeah.
Because this is a game, folks. As much as like intrigue you want to throw into it, this is a game.
Yeah.
We are sitting around a table playing a game. And if you don't laugh at least once in a session, I can't imagine you're having much fun.
Yeah, I agree.
I would hate to show up for a 3-hour session where I'm sweating bullets the whole time, and there's not at least some brevity.
And even that Critical Role game, man, there are laughs constantly.
Oh yeah,
and they cut up constantly.
A lot of times it's from Scanlan because he's a great bard. If any bard wants to know how to bard, they should look at Scanlan.
Scanlan Shorthalt, man.
Yeah, really great.
But yeah, I can't imagine playing a 3-hour. Being part of a D&D session where no one laughs, where everyone takes it so seriously that it doesn't appear that they're having any fun. That doesn't sound like much fun at all.
I'm playing this to get away from actual real life where I am doing that sometimes.
True.
So yeah, that's why I'm playing. And again, it goes back to, there's no right way to play. But I feel like fun. If you're having fun, you at least laugh at some point. You can at least break character for a moment and make a joke about what's going on, or even there can be an in-game joke that is just something there to make you smile.
And that's super important.
Yeah, and so people, they get in their heads that from Critical Role that this D&D session is like my audition for a TV show, like some kind of fantasy cartoon, and so I'm here. I'm ready to roll these dice, make my character memorable, and the DM is like, okay, so we're going to start off in a dungeon, and, I'm going to describe the room pretty basically, and, oh, look, here's, a goblin, and then, like, hello, says the goblin, and they're like, what is this? Where is your goblin voice? Where's the crazy movie narrator, descriptions of the setting, and the DMs are normally perplexed. They're like, I'm just kind of here. I have a book,
I'm DMing. This is how it's done.
This is how I DM, and they can't handle that, and it's a lack of expectations. But there's the other side of the Mercer effect that doesn't get talked about near enough, and it's the fact of how many people are entering this hobby more than ever. I'm one of them.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't have gotten in without Mercer kind of showing me how a session is run.
Yeah,
and
showing you what it can be.
Yeah, what it can be, and honestly, it gives me the confidence to actually do voices.
Yeah,
and I think that's one thing. If I have any advice for anybody, is that you don't have to have a voice, but if you want to have a voice, have a voice.
Yeah, just do it.
do it. Like, people may laugh at first and you may be really bad at it, but just keep practicing and eventually you'll be really good at it. That's really it, you know?
I mean, it goes back to the whole having fun thing. If it wouldn't be fun for a person to have a voice, like if having a voice for you is not fun, then don't worry about it.
Yeah,
however, if you would have more fun with a voice, do it.
Yeah.
And like Jeffrey said, even if it makes people laugh initially, they will learn to love it, and it'll make your character memorable.
Exactly. I can only think of one time where that wasn't true, and it's only because someone did a very stereotypical Japanese voice where it was just
kind of racist.
It was
almost.
Kind of racist, and I think you need to watch that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely watch that. You know, if you can't do a voice without it sounding like a caricature of the race, then don't do it until you're good at it. Practice on your own and then come see us, you know, kind of deal.
Take that, workshop it, and bring it back.
Exactly.
It's not horrible, but we
like,
can't
I,
show
as
it.
a white guy, I don't feel bad if I do a bad Italian accent, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely not trying to do a Japanese accent, you know, or an Indian accent. Like, I'm not trying to, you know, cross that line. But, you know, if it makes you happy to have a voice, and don't worry about people, you know, getting on to you about for how much it may suck, because it'll eventually get better. Exactly. And, you know, and there's even room for, if you don't want to have a voice, but you want your character to like have a certain voice, then just say, you know, my character has a very, you know, Japanese sounding voice, and leave it at that. And then people can just pretend from there, because this is also, you know, supposed to be an imagination game.
Exactly. Nobody's actually having sword fights or casting spells.
Right.
You know, it's all in the mind's eye.
So I think we need to appreciate Matthew Mercer and the work the Critical Role cast does to get new people into the hobby.
I absolutely agree. Like, I know a lot of people who have watched Critical Role or listened to Critical Role, and they've been very excited to play. I've also known people who have been excited to DM, and like, anything that brings more DMs into the world
lets the DMs who are already in existence play.
Exactly. And like, that's awesome. You know? Just the whole bringing new people into the hobby and showing them they can do the daunting thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people look at a DM's job once they understand what all goes into it, and they freak out and they're like, "Oh, I can never do that. I can never
track
ever
all those numbers, all that, whatever."
And really, like, DMs are winging it a lot of the times. Like, we don't want to admit it, but, you know, players make chaotic decisions and we're just winging it. So, like, I don't know, go to some improv workshops if you're really worried about it, but really it's improv.
Yeah, it's very much improv. And there are notes sometimes, but it's
you a lot of times the notes are just to keep track of what happened in the session in the moment, and, you know, you're going to refer to them for reference, but, you know, your plans for the future, you have a vague outline.
Yeah.
Vague outline.
You can't plan for the chaos of 6 people trying to make one unified decision. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, no, it will never happen, and there's always going to be that rogue that goes off on his own.
Yeah, man, rogues are an issue.
Stereotyping characters, I think, is one trap a lot of people fall into.
Absolutely. Seductive bards and sticky-fingered rogues are not always the case. I think my favorite bards have always been people who want to live in their own heroic tales in the setting, you know? Like,
I'm fortunate in that I haven't run into the screw everything bard. Like, the guy's like, "Oh, I roll for seduction." I'm like, that's not even a skill. You know, I'm really glad, because I don't like those memes. I don't like the internet memes.
I don't either,
because I feel like anyone's like, "Well, I don't want to be a bard because I don't want to have sex all the time." And I'm like, what? Do you even understand what a bard does? A bard is there controlling everything. Like,
from combat control spells to, like,
being the party face and speaking for them, like,
and spreading the news. You could very much be like the herald for the party, and also get news from other bards. That could be something cool that a DM could do, like, for a bard player. Be like, "Yeah, you guys are the news source for the people."
Exactly. Yeah, and so, like, that's like a bard can be so much more. A rogue can be so much more than just like edgy, sit in the corner, wait until someone comes up to him to interact with anybody.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Constantly trying to drop hints about his tragic backstory.
The biggest possible eye roll.
Yeah. Honestly, like the one who probably has a katana more so than the monk is the rogue.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like,
for sure.
And that's not to like say anything bad about like, you know, wanting to have like a katana or whatever, but like it's that kind of stereotype of
like D8 dexterity weapons. Like yeah, it's a katana. If you want a long sword, but you don't want to, like, if you want like a rapier, but I want to like not use a rapier. It's like, yeah, you've got a katana. It's fine.
Yeah, rapiers have a monopoly on so many classes because dexterity has a monopoly on so many classes.
Dexterity is placed at a premium in 5e, and it's a crime.
It is a crime. You know what's also a crime? The lack of intelligence. Like, if you're not a wizard, why are you intelligent at all?
That's why I'm glad they're bringing in the artificer. Like,
yeah, we needed someone else, like the arcane archer and the eldritch knight and the arcane trickster. They weren't enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a full class. It's like, yeah, you're a rogue. Dexterity is your main stat, or you're a fighter. Yeah. Constitution, strength, dex. And
like the intelligence skills, like a lot of times people confuse investigation and perception anyway. So it's like, what are you doing? Like arcana checks are like, yeah, it's magical. Good job. You figure that out. And, you know, history checks and nature checks.
Those can help flesh out a world. They can help.
If you have players ask about it.
Exactly. You know? If you have lore to exposit, that's how you do it. But oftentimes, not oftentimes.
It's like the DC for this lore check is 5. Please just ask me.
Roll.
I actually found online like a really cool way to boost intelligence's worth. It was like for every +1 you get from intelligence, you get like a language or a tool proficiency.
That's how they used to do it in previous editions, like back in 3.5, which is like kind of where my roots live.
Yeah.
Every +1 intelligence, you got a language, because tool proficiencies weren't really a thing back then. So it's like, yeah, if you wanted to play any sort of person multilingually, you'd have to have a high intelligence.
Yeah, and like you would in real life. What?
Yeah, exactly. You have to have a strong mental capacity.
You can't be an idiot savant and just kind of wander into all these languages.
An idiot savant polyglot.
Yeah.
That's my next character.
I just get languages. It's the only thing I understand.
Yeah. That's a great idea, actually, for like a cyberpunk game. Be like, yeah, I'm an idiot savant, but man, I
downloaded all these languages.
Exactly. I know binary.
Oh, yeah.
So you've been playing for 2 years as a DM. Well, what are your roleplay tips aside from, have a voice if you want a voice? What would be your sage advice?
I should have thought of this before.
No, that's okay.
I think one advice I can have, and I've already said it, is to cut loose.
Cut loose.
You're playing a game. I'm not getting nervous playing Monopoly unless I'm playing with like bankers and realtors.
Playing with people who know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I'm gonna show up and be like, all right, let's roll some dice and let's have some fun. Like come with that mindset, and the role play will follow. If you have a good group of people who aren't going to be like, hey, your voice is dumb, your character's stupid.
You shouldn't be playing with those people anyways.
Yeah, you shouldn't be playing with bullies. You should be playing with your friends or like acquaintances who can become your friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like once that happens, you can just let go and like be your character. Like if you're the DM, like you can just get into all your different NPCs you've created. So much easier.
Yeah.
Just have fun. Oh gosh, that's like the main rule of D&D. That's my advice, is to have fun, but it's so true.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not having fun, you're not in the right group. Because D&D is, as Matthew Colville would say, the most fun you can have with your mind. Mm-hmm. Like sit down around a table with your friends and
unless you get a full party of that guy, in which case they can all be that guy together. They're having fun. There's the funniest story I ever read about D&D was like a line from it was, this room must have been some kind of weird octagon because every character was in their own dark corner brooding.
I mean, that's a common fantasy though, right? Like we've all seen Lord of the Rings, or at least part of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Good old Strider.
Strider sitting in the corner of the what is it?
The Prancing Pony.
Prancing Pony, that's right. The Prancing Pony. Sitting in the
I
corner
watched
of
it a
the
couple
Prancing
weeks
Pony.
ago. I'm not like super knowledgeable, but yeah, it's the Prancing Pony.
It's such a good scene, and Strider is such an interesting character in that moment, and everyone wants to be Strider.
Yeah.
I get it. Aragorn's like the forgotten king, yada yada yada.
And
It's such a cool fucking character.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a fighter," and he's gonna be like Aragorn. I'm like, he's a ranger.
He's a ranger guy. They call him
Legolas
Ranger.
is a fighter, guys.
That's one that always trips people up. People are like, yeah, fighter, ranger, flip flopping them. Mm-hmm. No, man, Legolas is definitely a fighter. Actually, I've seen a strong argument for him being a Kensei monk. What with his flip flopping in the Hobbit movies, if you even count those.
I almost kind of just count elves in the Tolkien realm as like part monks anyway.
I get that. I get that.
Like, yeah, I can definitely see it. But just the way he's surfing down the stairs in the two towers and shooting multiple arrows all the time, and he's not casting any spells. He's just an elf.
Exactly. Exactly. Man, Lord of the Rings. There's a supplement for 5e. Adventures in Middle Earth.
Oh, very
I've been
good.
meaning to pick it up just because I'm curious as to how they mechanize like Arwen's calling of the water horses when they like. How do you?
I mean, magic item. It was actual magic items. Like
Really?
It was the power rings the elves had.
That's-
Elrond and Gandalf teamed up with their own power rings to make the water horses happen.
That's
It
dope.
wasn't really like in the movie. It seems like it's her chanting that does it, but in the books, it's actually those power rings controlling
So is she like
elements.
calling out to Elrond and
Yeah.
Gandalf, and they're like, okay, we're gonna use our magic rings,
Pretty much.
to summon some water horses.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So you don't have to like kind of fuss about like, how do I do this? It's a magic item. It doesn't have to explain anything.
Exactly.
It just is. It just is.
Magic items are one of my favorite parts about 5e, but they kind of break the fuck out of 5e.
I've gotten to the point in my Storm King's Thunder game where I am tired of my players who all have D8 hit dice characters. So there's a druid, a rogue, and a cleric. And then a barbarian. He's their saving grace. But yeah, they
double the hit points.
Exactly,
The rest of them do.
and he has the tough feet as
Oh my
well.
God.
So he has just boatloads of health. He's a bear barbarian as well. So
he
he's
doesn't
taking half
take
of
any
everything.
damage.
Yeah. So it's
Frost giants, fucking fire giants, storm giants.
nothing.
None of them. He doesn't.
and I've
take
kind
the
of helped
fire,
him
but-
like power game his build because he's that
Yeah.
kind of that kind of player. He's
Yeah.
a power gamer.
Nothing wrong with
and
that.
There is definitely nothing wrong with that. I kind of have disdain for people who
have disdain for power gamers.
Exactly. There is a place for
It is
power
a valid
gamers.
way to play.
It is a valid way to play because honestly, if you have a power gamer in your group and you don't care about dealing a bunch of damage, well, guess what? Now you're open to have the most unoptimized character of all time.
Exactly.
Because they have combat on lock. You can fiddle around and be that gnome illusionist you've always wanted to play.
No illusionist should have stayed in 3.5.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Honestly, illusion's a tough school to like gamify.
Oh yeah, it's definitely DM dependent.
Super DM dependent.
I always come from this is my advice for DMs is
Concerning illusion, specifically or just in general.
Just in general is to work with your players, get them to where they want to be because they have more fun and then you have more fun.
Absolutely.
And if it's someone who wants to play that illusionist, well, you better work with them to decide how you're going to handle illusions. I haven't had a player who wants to do that yet, but I've already kind of like in my mind, everything's going to be kind of like a Arcana check for the other person to see how susceptible they are to the illusion.
like a contested Arcana check with their
spell
save.
DC. Yeah.
That's super smart.
Yeah, and
That's
so
super smart.
so that way, like sometimes characters will be able to perceive through, and other times they're going to be totally convinced.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing to do for your players is to really work with them, get them to where they want to be with their characters. Don't fight them. Like this is not you versus them.
And
This
it never
is-
has been, or it shouldn't have ever been.
It shouldn't be until I will say the final fight. I think the final fight you should kind of like unleash hell upon your players.
Yeah.
I kind of I don't necessarily pull my punches up until the final fight. I do kind of like just I roll in the open.
Yeah.
I don't roll behind a screen so that my players can see, like, if they get a critical hit against them, like, it's a critical hit.
They earned that crit.
Yeah, and
it can't be reneged upon.
Yeah,
it's been rolled in the open.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty brave.
And so it doesn't. There's zero like, oh, he's cheating. Ugh, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, nobody does.
You know, everybody rolls in the open unless you're online, in which case
if you roll a crit, send us a picture.
Yeah, exactly. Like. You can even angle the camera down to where your dice lands. It's not hard. But anyway,
true.
You shouldn't be cheating anyway. This is a game.
Exactly. A game you can't win.
You can't win.
You can't win.
And like, even if your character dies, guess what? You get the fun of building a new one.
I love building characters, which we will get to here soon.
Yeah. And so, just work with your players. It's not a you versus them mentality. And once you're all where you want to be, like, it's awesome. And honestly, the more power gamed characters you have, the more crazy stuff you can throw at them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who wants to slog through a bunch of goblins and orcs like
they're super hard.
Like, I want to throw like elementals at you guys, and the giants,
cool
like,
shit.
Yeah, I want to throw cool shit at you. I want to have an actual dragon fight where I can play that dragon to like the fullest degree, use that fly speed and the breath, and just wreck you guys, because you guys will be able to wreck this dragon if I don't play smart. Like, I want that.
Yeah,
and my players are slowly getting to that spot, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, having strong PCs allows you to throw whatever you want to at them.
And it makes you actually have to work for your encounters, because I feel like DMs, they can sometimes fall into a trap of like, well, here's some easy stat blocks to memorize, and here's some goblins, guys. Next session, here's some more goblins, guys.
And that gets really stale as a player.
It gets very stale.
And as a DM, you just don't know it's getting stale. You're just complacent. Yeah. So, speaking of PCs, would you like to roll a first level character for us, Jeffrey?
Let's do it.
I'm super excited. We here at Record Low Rollers are intending to run a one shot soon with some of the other guests. We're gonna record it for you, have it up on the site, and we're gonna go ahead and start rolling these dice, man. I hope you guys can hear it on that microphone.
I'm gonna angle the mic down towards it.
Because who doesn't love hearing the dice? Oh, yeah. Click clacks, man.
So I'm about to earn this podcast name for my record.
Oh, I really hope not. I mean, thankfully, strength can be a good dump stat. We are using the Colville method to a certain extent here at Record Low Rollers. We're doing the standard 6 stats, dropping our lowest of the 4d6. And placing them in order down the sheet from strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma.
Right now I have a 9 in strength, so here we go. All right, a 12 in dexterity.
And now the caveat for this is that when he's done rolling his stats, he can swap the positioning of 2 stats. Oh, lordy, is that a 5?
That's a 6, man.
That's a 6. Ye gods. This is what I was concerned about. Another cool thing about the Colville method. Right now, this character is not legal. He needs at least 2 15s or higher in order to be viable, to be a heroic character. So Jeffrey finished rolling that batch of stats, and they were atrocious.
Not a single one over 15.
Yeah, not even one. It wasn't even like halfway to legal. I think the lowest was a 6, which is usually unheard of.
Could have done better with point buy.
Could have done better with point buy. Man. So we're gonna start again from the top. Listen to that click clack.
Jesus be with me. People don't know that's
holy shit.
That's an
8 strength.
That's okay. I didn't need strength for either character I was going for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get
Absolutely.
out of the way of the first one. Here we go, folks.
Yeah, strength is a good dump stat. Like,
unfortunately,
like most DMs don't play with encumbrance rules. I know that I don't. Do you?
I'm thinking in the future, like if I ever get around to running Tomb of Annihilation,
a good hex crawl game.
A good hex crawl game needs rules like that in order to feel real. Right now, Storm King's Thunder, I gave everyone a bag of holding.
That's
at the very
amazing.
beginning, and I just had them promise me not to pull any ethereal plane shenanigans with them.
That's always that's a super old school kind of reasoning, in my opinion. Like from way back when, I've seen a lot of like, you put your portable hole in your bag of holding and you make a black hole.
Yeah, and just goodbye.
Goodbye to everyone in like a 100-foot radius. Yeah. Also, that was a 15 on that dexterity.
There we go.
Solid stat to have a good stat in. Like,
oh, that's an 18, folks.
18
yes.
in Constitution. You could play a super tanky barbarian if that was something you felt interested in.
Constitution and dexterity, I feel like, are like the god stats in this edition.
I tend to agree.
Maybe with wisdom and charisma thrown in there, but like honestly, if you don't have good con, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Even if dying in 5e is more difficult than previous editions.
Yeah, like with my time in 3.5, I spent a lot of time with dead characters, like people with characters who died easily because, people wanted to play spellcasters like wizards and sorcerers. Also, that was a 14 in that intelligence. Might play like a gnome wizard, potentially. That's a possibility. That nets you a 16 there. Their hit die back in the day, how you determined their hit points, were D4s back in 3.5, which is absolutely atrocious.
That's such garbage. Like a stiff breeze.
Stiff breeze could kill
like
a 3.5
wizards would cast
sorcerer.
their one spell a day and then like go hide.
Yeah.
Pull out their dagger and pray to God nothing got close.
I actually had a player, somebody you might meet actually. He had gamed the way that I had given out magic items at this point in my DM career, and that was a 10 in that charisma as well. So we've got an 8, a 15, an 18, a 14, an 11, and a 10. This player had gamed my magic item distribution and had taken a wizard retainer with the leadership feat and had Darren's instant fortress. So they would just open the door, pull out their pocket wizard, be like, hey, I'm a rogue in 3.5, cast Cat's Grace on me, and then stick them back in their little pocket dimension, and then use their daggers to just go ham and cut some motherfuckers up. It was busted, and that character ended up in their own, like, one-off game for a little while because none of the other players were having fun playing with this, like, insane monster.
Right. That's another, and like that's kind of like where I understand people's problems with power gamers. They eventually feel inadequate.
Yeah,
but that goes back to where your cares lie. And I feel like people need to remember there's a lot of facets of D&D. There's the social role-playing part. Yeah. There's the combat, and then there's being a DM, which is like kind of a mixture of all of them. So like there's 3 layers you can enter on the planes of D&D.
Yeah,
and some people power game to social situations. Some people, they try and be the most persuasive mofo there is.
They put out their expertise in deception and persuasion.
Yeah, and that's where they power game, and they can make anyone feel inadequate. But honestly, you drop a wizard in any situation, and like they are God.
Yeah,
they have an answer for everything. They can be the rogue with find traps and knock, and then they can be the social aspect, which is charm person and fear, and then they can move almost anything that needs strength required with their spells. They can
telekinesis,
control the battlefield. Yeah,
wall of fire.
So really, a wizard is one of the easiest things to power game ever. And it's almost hard not to.
I mean, yeah. In order to play a wizard well, like intelligently, they would pick spell selections that are highly, that they're easily utilized. Mm-hmm. And back in 3.5, there were no concentration rules. You could cast Fly and Stone Skin and Mage Armor all on yourself, and then take to the skies and blast fireballs. For as many spell slots as you had, of course.
Absolutely. And I think, speaking on that, I look at these stats I have right here, and I see more of a spellcaster.
Absolutely.
Within them, because Constitution is one of those things that if you have it high enough, you'll not drop concentration on anything.
Yeah.
So what I'm actually planning on doing here is I'm going to play a wizard.
You can play a wizard.
I'm going to throw out my other two that like ideas I had before. And I'm going to play a wizard. And I think with this, I'm actually going to swap Constitution and Intelligence around.
That's smart, because even that +2 modifier from that 14 is like really good for a first level wizard.
Absolutely. And we spoke on this earlier, but I'm going to be a gnome illusionist. I know
Yes.
I talked about breaking tropes, but sometimes, you just got to be the trope.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest way to break a trope, in my opinion. Go into the trope and then break it. Like, play to that trope and then absolutely subvert it.
You know what? Actually, I'm going to switch dexterity and...
Dexterity and intelligence?
No, I'm gonna keep it as. I'm gonna keep it as.
Keep like that?
Yeah.
Because
14
I think
here.
I might start you guys actually at second level, just because no one likes playing first level characters. So you will have your Arcane Tradition.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And which gnome were you thinking? Rock gnome? Forest gnome? Or were you thinking Sverfneblin?
I'm not thinking. I'm definitely probably gonna go rock gnome because
Rock
I do
gnome.
want to tinker a little bit.
Okay.
I love Tinker's
that.
tools because I feel like Tinker's tools are right under Thieves' tools as the most useful tool
I agree.
in 5e.
I absolutely agree.
And it's one of those things you work with your DM on. Hi.
Howdy.
Yeah.
I will be your DM.
Where, you don't want to like say like, all right, I want a gun. I'm going to make a gun now. But like, I want to make a little tiny clockwork device,
Make a- I wanna
that's
make a
not
thing.
necessarily listed.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts about that's one of my favorite things about D&D and tabletop role playing in general is that freedom to experiment that really you don't find in other mediums. So you got a +1 Constitution there, and then your intelligence at level 2 is at 20.
I am
which
the
is
smartest one at the table.
almost certainly. Almost certainly.
But I am unwise. I'm probably going to be very,
Kind of gullible.
Yeah, leap first, look second.
Nothing wrong with that.
Kind
I
of
mean,
deal.
a brave wizard looks last.
Yes.
They very much want to experience. Experience is good.
Yeah, I'm just trying, and I feel like the illusionist school is something that you can really put your mind behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if there's any class to play, like with max intelligence, I feel like it is an illusionist because you have to think about, all right, what illusion is going to be most beneficial? Like, how do I trick people essentially?
Yeah. How do I fool these people? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really strong archetype to play into. Like gnome illusionists are they have a long history in Dungeons and Dragons for a good reason. Gnomes are tricky little buggers.
They're tricky. Well, I mean, I would be too. If I was so little.
Yeah, are they the smallest? Are they smaller than halflings?
I think they are. I'm not sure where they stand with goblins, however.
That's true. I always forget like the exact dimensions about with the small races.
They're little, it's just
they're
they have 25 movement speed, and that's the end of it.
And they can't use heavy weapons.
Yeah,
rough. So your speed will be 25 feet. You know that. You get dark vision, which is a surprisingly common ability in 5e.
It's common here, yeah. But yeah, it's common, but very useful. And a lot of the times, if everyone has dark vision, no one has dark vision. You just
Exactly.
see. And
until you start breaking out that arcane darkness, which is always scary because suddenly you're walking into like, hey, you're moving through a dark cave. When you see an orb of darkness ahead of you, it's like, what the fuck is that?
What did I just enter into?
Yeah, horrifying. So you got your dark vision. You've got your gnome cunning. You have advantage on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws, which is
Probably one of the better racials in the game.
Yeah, easy.
Honestly, I think the best racial in the game is Lucky.
Oh yeah. I mean, as punishment for having Lucky, you have to play a halfling.
Yeah.
And then you have Gnomish and Common as your languages. How much work do you do with the languages as a DM generally? Like,
I have the Giants in my Storm King's Thunder game only speak Giant. For the most part,
really
unless
nice.
they have experience speaking with small folks. So the one Goliath barbarian player is the only one who can really speak to the others.
He is the individual translator,
and he's very low intelligence, so it's kind of funny to see him translate.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's one thing. Play to your stats, see what's low, see what's high. So yeah, play to your stats. See what's low, see what's high, and see what you can role play out of this. So like what I was saying, like I have an 8 in strength. I'm a small gnome.
Yeah.
I'm not a lifter. And then I have a very high intelligence, which means I am smart. But I have low wisdom, which means I'm book smart. I'm not street smart to kind of break it down. Like I'll be swindled a lot more than likely just because I'll believe someone if they tell me they, have this potion or whatever. It's really snake oil, right? And then my charisma's low, so I'm not even like really adept at noticing lies, and I'm definitely not a talker.
Yeah, you're a bookworm, and you're good at like you've got a pretty decent dexterity, honestly. Like.
Yeah, so like I'm small, I'm able to like move around people pretty easily, because they're rolling around with those big old legs that take a minute to move, and I'm shuffling around like a cartoon character.
Gnomes are great.
Yeah, gnomes are halflings with anime eyes. I've heard it described.
Yeah, that's a really good way to say it. Have you seen Pathfinder gnomes? Do you have much experience with Pathfinder?
I don't.
They're like fey creatures. They very much lean into the differences between.
I think gnomes should be kind of like that. It's kind of how they are lore wise in our own world.
Yeah. They're like they're much closer to like a garden gnome than like a halfling.
Yeah.
Yeah. They go through this thing called the withering. It's like, if you don't enjoy things in your life, if you don't have chaos, if you don't have whimsy, all the color starts to run out of your hair and your skin. You just turn into like this gray ghost of a person. It's really interesting. So, as a rock gnome, you have Common and Gnomish as your languages. You have Gnome Cunning, the advantage on those saving throws. And as a rock gnome, I'm going to read from the book. You have Natural Inventiveness and Hardiness beyond that of other gnomes. Very cool. So you get that +1 Constitution, which bumps you up to a 15 after your 14-18 swap. And you have Artificer's Lore. Whenever you make an intelligence history check related to magic items, alchemical objects, or technological devices, you can add twice your proficiency bonus instead of any proficiency bonus you normally apply. So you have like expertise concerning magic items. Mm-hmm. It's dope.
Yeah.
And then the important part, you're a tinker, and you can make stuff. Clockwork Devices. I'm just going to pass you the book so you can copy that down if you would like.
Oh, I'm okay. Like I can write it in later. Yes, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's different things like an alarm, fire starter. I think is one.
A clockwork toy and a music box. I'm okay with alarm being a thing. Is that?
It might be from the feat they have for rock gnomes.
That's
where
right.
They have extra stuff they can make.
I love
kind
those
of a
racial feats, actually.
Because honestly, I'd just rather deal with DM fiat to kind of like let you create new stuff.
I'm there with you. Doesn't it also incur a +1 intelligence?
Yeah.
And you could make it work, but might as well take something like resilient intelligence. But you're already at max intelligence, so that wouldn't,
Well, I have intelligence saving throws, all right. I'd probably get resilient con.
That's true. Bump that up to a +3.
Yeah.
And I know that some DMs play with the feats at level 1 for everybody. You do that, which I think is very cool. But I've done it before, and it's kind of backfired on me. Like, I've ended up with a variant human with Sentinel and Polearm Master at level 1. And that was rough to work
Was it
around.
Dalton?
No. Dalton, the first 5e game he ever played, we found a homebrew sorcerer subclass that makes you a fucking Jedi.
Of course.
You have the flow running through you.
Of course.
It was a fun character concept, but it really butted heads with the fallen Azamar fighter, which,
Yeah.
Yeah. That fallen Azamar ended up as an Eldritch Knight, actually. Eldritch Knights are so fucking cool.
They are cool.
I'm a big fan of Eldritch Knights. So have you thought about a background for your rock gnome wizard?
I'm thinking
because there are some interesting directions you could take this kind of character, like an acolyte of Garl Glittergold.
I think actually I'm gonna go for a criminal background, but I kind of want to do it like a Robin Hood criminal.
Okay, I'm cool with that. So
chaotic good.
So folk hero criminal, like a criminal in the eyes of the law, but a folk hero as far as people are concerned.
Yeah,
I really like that.
Using my illusions to kind of distract the guards. While we.
I'm very, very down with that. How do you want to write that on your sheet? 'Cause you don't have to write down criminal or folk hero. You can write that you can write down.
I'm okay with criminal because really in the eyes of the law, that's what he'll be. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so the
law is in the eye of the is in the law of the legislators.
That's
right.
right.
In the eye of the legislators. So for that criminal background, you get deception and stealth. Do you want to keep those, or would you rather take one of the skills from folk hero, because we're kind of synergizing the two as a concept?
No, I'll take them.
Deception and stealth, one gaming set, and thieves tools, which dope. A lot of my characters end up being criminals because no one in my parties tend to play rogues. Like, I made my tiefling character in your game a criminal as his background, because at the time there were no rogues in the game, and then Strahd killed us all, or killed almost all of us. Strahd does that.
Strahd does do that. He only does that if you piss him off.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. So we ended up with the rogue in the party, but still, it was nice to have the thieves' tools proficiencies.
Yes.
That's a super important proficiency.
Might not always have the rogue because they might go off on their own. You never know.
Exactly, as they are wont to do. All right. So you get your gaming set, you get your thieves' tools. Did you choose like cards or dice? Cards. Yeah, I'm right there with you. You also get a crowbar, a set of dark common clothes. We don't necessarily have to track all that. But you do have 15 gold pieces.
All right.
And your specialty, your criminal specialty, you are I don't know. The options are blackmailer, burglar, enforcer, fence, highway robber, hired killer, pickpocket, and smuggler. And
probably a mixture of like highway robber and
like not vigilante, but like I don't even know what is Robin Hood technically like.
I mean, he robbed like caravans of like the king's court,
I think,
or like he would just break into like the castle.
Heard that.
Get that. So kind of like an infiltrator in a way, into the towns and stuff. So
you can write that in however you'd wish from these options, or if there's like a better synergistic of like highway robber and thief.
I'd probably put that more in like my background.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. As part of your criminal specialty, previously, like what someone from your past might know you as.
Right. Probably like someone from my past probably wants me, arrested.
Hanged for your crimes.
Exactly. Yeah. Get the barrel for me to stand on.
Oh, God. And then your feature is criminal contact, which I think is a really good one. It's just like
a good role play.
It's an NPC generator. I'm a big fan of that. And then you have your suggested characteristics, and we can go through this here if you'd like. If you're comfortable with that, because I'd like to know some details about how you want to role play this character.
I definitely want to role play the character more or less like he's a good guy, like for sure. But
chaotic
he's headstrong. He probably believes that he'll never be able to be caught. He thinks he's the greatest thief in all the land.
Yeah.
And he the small folk are fortunate that he helps them instead of turns against them. So I definitely want to err on the side of like, the nicer side of the criminal. So as far as like personality
as a hero,
traits,
for sure.
Yeah, like, I always have a plan for what to do when things go wrong. Sure.
Absolutely playing into that high stat, like you were talking about earlier, that high intelligence.
Yeah, like I it's like everything's a chess match.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the paths of where I can go. But I probably don't pay attention to the risks in a situation. Never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds.
Exactly.
That's a great character trait.
Yeah.
I love that personally. How about ideals? Out of curiosity.
Ideals.
Because you're both chaotic and good.
Yeah. So, one right here is charity. And
Charity.
That's the good side of it. I steal from the wealthy so that I can help people in need. And, and then freedom as far as like,
chains meant to be broken.
Yeah, no one, tells him what to do. He probably tells other people what to do if he was, in a band of thieves. But normally he can get by on just his own.
Yeah. The benefits of being a powerful wizard.
Right. And
or
then
even a second level wizard. Most people don't have magic, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And then, my bond, I think this is where I'll probably go a little off book, in a way, but probably I think this guy did something, maybe a botched operation went wrong. Someone got hurt and has never really like forgiven himself. And so he just sticks to what he knows, but like he's constantly like hurt by it because every time he like pulls a job,
there's always a chance.
There's always a chance someone else could get hurt.
Yeah.
And there's always a chance that, he gets flashbacks of what happened to maybe like his friend or maybe just an innocent bystander, So I think there's a debt he wants to pay.
I think that either could be really interesting to role play, whether or not you know the person.
Yeah.
It feels like that's something we could chat about.
Yeah.
Because they both have utility, both narratively and as like role play tools. Like, would you rather know the person as the player of this character that we're building? Would you rather know the person who got hurt?
I think so.
Yeah. So it's an NPC in your past.
Yeah,
that you know.
I think so. I think it was probably if this guy ever could have a best friend, I think it'd be that.
Be that other operator. Essentially.
Yeah. There's a really cool character in Curse of Strahd, Rictavio, who is a vampire hunter in his own right, but he's cursed to where anyone he's friends with ends up dying.
Yeah.
So he's constantly like, we're not friends. Like he'll treat you like a friend, be like, we're not friends,
And do you play that as being like a mechanized curse, or is that just his perception of it?
Oh, so in Curse of Strahd, there's like the Vistani, who they're kind of like based on gypsies in our own world, who are famous for like their curses, and it's sort of like Like, you ever watch Holes?
Yeah, man. It's like a Romani curse on him.
Exactly. Yes.
Gotcha.
So anyone he declares friend ends up getting hurt, and I kind of feel like this is how this guy feels now, where like I can't be friends with anyone. I'll work with people, but I can't be friends because they might get hurt, and then I'll feel guilty, and I can't do that to myself again.
I get that. So this gnome illusionist is kind of we're kind of taking different tropes from different character concepts that I'm a big fan of. Like, everybody likes being the potentially lone wolf, has to go in for this one job with these people.
Like, I'm not trying to be a lone wolf with this guy. Like, he's open to like working with people, but he just doesn't want to get attached.
And that's a great conflict for a character to have. Like, I like these people. I would love to be their friends.
Exactly.
But God,
what if they get hurt and then I'll be hurt? And then he'll probably still end up being hurt if they're hurt. That's the funny thing.
That's the fucked up part.
It's just a thing he tells himself to make himself feel better, that like, oh, we're not friends. I couldn't be close to these people, but like he'll still end up helping them. Like he'll still, he'll fight with them, and it's just this sort of like, what am I doing?
And that's like I said, that's a super, super strong character concept, and I'm glad we're leaning into that.
Yeah.
And then finally, the flaw.
The flaw? I think I probably already touched on it, is the headstrong.
Headstrong?
Yeah. I think that I can just outsmart my way out of everything, and not every situation you can,
Probably is the smartest in the room, but sometimes that just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Like I can't really help help get you out of this bind. with the guards, but I'll probably chew you out afterwards for not being as smart as me, and that kind of deal.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
I always kind of think of it like the rogues, the warlocks, the bards, and the sorcerers. They're the troublemakers. There's who get you into the trouble.
Absolutely.
The paladin and the monk, they're kind of there to smooth things over with everyone, and then the fighter and the barbarian are already attacking the guards without even giving it a second thought.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
then the wizard and the cleric are there to chastise the troublemakers, not really tell them help them, but really be like, oh, you shouldn't have done that.
I can't believe you did that. Yeah.
It's that kind of deal. And then the druid and the ranger aren't even there.
They're in the woods with
they're already in the woods. The city's gross.
City's gross. I mean, they're usually right. D&D cities are invariably either gorgeous and corrupt or grimy and gross, and might in very particular circumstances be over top of mind flayer dens or
exactly
cool shit. Were rats.
Can I get a sewer system, please, so I can just feel better about everyone who lives in this town?
Exactly. How about some otyugs?
Yeah, some aqueducts up in here.
Yes, man. Most of my D&D settings, the ones that I homebrew, are right on the cusp of technological advancements. So they all have plumbing and that sort of shit, but they still use swords and magic.
Right. Well, you got to. That's the whole point of Eberron.
Yeah, I love Eberron. I can't
wait till it's fully done in November. That's gonna be nice.
Closing in.
The Wayfinder's Guide's pretty good, but I just like to be official.
I read through the Wayfinder's Guide, and I was super pleased with all the information in there. I liked the debts and regrets near the beginning of that book. That was cool, everyone was affected by the Great War.
Oh, the Great War. That's just lore gold right there.
Oh, was it the Great War or the Last War? Was it called the Last War?
I
don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it's character creation gold. So that's our background done. Mm-hmm. And now, do we want to get to the illusion stuff? Because I am actually not terribly familiar with the illusion school. Well,
the first thing that wizards get when they first start off is their spell book.
Yeah.
And their spell book and their spell casting, obviously.
Yeah.
And cantrips, all that jazz, a couple first level spells. That's awesome. Wizards are unique. They start off with 6.
It's a lot
first
of
level spells plus whatever your intelligence is. I'm gonna have max level, obviously, since I've maxed my intelligence. And so I'm coming in with a lot of prepared spells.
Yeah.
And the way the wizard spellbook is working, you can switch out every day based on what's in your spellbook, what you have prepared up to your intelligence. And so it's really cool. It really turns into kind of like a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. Trying to prepare for every situation. As well as ritual casting.
Ritual casting is one of my favorite inclusions in 5e.
Yeah, great. The ability to cast awesome spells without needing to use a slot is really good. Always. And then speaking of slots, starting off at first level, we also get Arcane Recovery, which is a short rest mechanic to kind of give wizards some spells back, because people complained about the previous editions that kind of felt like wizard cast their spell and then they were done.
Yeah, and they definitely did.
And it's kind of where cantrips come in for that as well.
Cantrips have so much good utility. I played a war wizard back in the day, a war mage, not long after Xanathar's came out. Hobgoblin war mage, big fan of that character. He leaned really hard on his cantrips, his spell casting, his spells were usually kept in reserve for big scary shit. In particular, I think we fought a mummy, and I went down in that fight, but all of my spell slots went to trying to nuke that mummy out. It was bad.
It was. Mummies are difficult foes for sure.
Mummy rot is a horrifying mechanic. You drop to 0 while you have mummy rot, and you turn into dust.
That's why I kind of enjoy people who say oh, it's so hard to die in 5e. Oh, it's so easy to just live, and it's your DM needs to throw in the right creatures, and it's not. You get some shadows up in there.
Shadows?
A shadow would destroy my character.
Oh, yeah, man. A D4. Is it a D4 plus 2 in potential strength loss? yikes.
Yeah,
drop
you
you to
dropped
0 and you turn into a shadow.
Exactly.
That's such a good mechanic.
It's so good.
I like those. I like the petrification system. Like a cockatrice is like a CR2 monster. Yeah. You can throw that at like a level 1 party.
And it's terrifying.
It's terrifying. You could get turned into stone by its little pecs. It's so fucking cool. And you don't always have to kill your party. Sometimes you can, you don't have to kill them with their HP, as evidenced by strength drain, diseases, and petrification. Love it all.
Loving it. Okay, so then we're getting to second level, and that's where wizards choose their school. I am in the School of Illusion, as we've said. I focus studies on magic that dazzles the senses, befuddles the mind, and tricks even the wisest folk. My magic is subtle, but the illusions crafted by your keen mind make the impossible seem real. And so that's and it even says here, some illusionists, including many known wizards, which, are benign tricksters who use their spells to entertain. Others are more sinister masters of deception. But that's kind of where we're more.
You're a benevolent master of deception.
Benevolent master of deception. So the first thing you get, Illusion Savant. I can... The golden time spent to copy an illusion spell into my spell book is halved, which
is super important.
It's super important if it comes up.
Exactly. I've played in some games where it was super important. I had that Great Old One Warlock in that first game. He was a Pact of the Tome, so he was always searching for gold and ink and paper to copy more ritual spells into his spell book. It became a fun and easy way to lure the players into danger. You guys need gold. Your warlock wants more ritual spells, so he can make tiny huts and tensor floating discs and that sort of shit.
And any help warlock can get to cast more spells.
I know, right? Two spell slots until level 11. Right. Then you get a third. Good for you. But they come back on a short rest. A nice lenient DM offering lots of short rests will really make a warlock, a monk, and a fighter shine,
Yeah, for sure.
And even a wizard to a certain extent because of that arcane recovery. Getting half your level back in spell slots is super nice.
Oh, yeah. I've just never felt like wizards needed help.
I agree.
With much.
You've heard the term... quadratic wizards, linear fighters.
Yeah.
That's they tried to fix it in this book, and I think they've gotten pretty close.
They've gotten so close, but that power disparity is still big. I'm gonna drop a meteor swarm. What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna attack 4 times.
Yeah, I'm gonna attack 4 times. But I mean, that's where magic items can come in and help.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But then the wizard probably has magic items.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
I can have the greatest sword in the world, and I'm swinging 4 times. And this guy's calling fire from the sky and warping reality. So that's cool.
Yeah. This guy over here's got wish. The other one's got divine intervention, and I've got a cool sword.
Which for some people that's fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a very different kind of person who wants to play fighters and barbarians as opposed to playing a wizard. A wizard is very mechanically dense, and I'm glad we already have a wizard in the party because I was concerned because nobody wants to play wizards generally.
They're pretty hard to set up.
They're hard to set up.
The amount of spells get really daunting, but if you have the guy who wants to be a wizard, God help the DM.
Yeah.
We're gonna play a chess match.
We are, and man, I'm a big fan of Matthew Colville's design. He put out a video recently about action-driven monsters, action-oriented. The way that he mechanizes spell casting for his monsters, he doesn't use the spells from the player's handbook. Mm-hmm. He's it has this ability that mimics a spell. It doesn't have spell slots because odds are that monster's gonna die in 2 or 3 rounds anyways. It's not a big bad evil guy. It's not a lich. It's not anything like that. It's orc claw of Yurtus or whatever one of those things that has spells is. Just give it abilities so that's one less thing to track.
I mean, yeah, there's room for that, but you want to be sure players feel counterspell if their counterspelling character is useful.
Absolutely. That's why I think it should be essentially a spell-like ability.
Yeah.
It functions like a spell. You can still counterspell it. You can still dispel magic on like charm abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I absolutely agree with you because counterspell is such a fun mechanic in this game.
Oh yeah, everybody loves to counterspell a counterspell. It actually happened in our Strahd fight. It was
I remember.
one of the best parts of it. You know, it's like I counterspell. Like, oh, good for you, player. Well, I guess
Strahd has it too.
Strahd counterspells your counterspell. And then if I dream, those like all monoclass parties you hear about, like the all fighter party, just like the all guardsman party, and like the all paladin party was a thing. The all bard party was a band,
the rock band,
the rock band that fought the demon. Mm-hmm. So I just imagine like a team of wizards.
That's a headache.
It's a headache until something heavy falls on them.
Yeah, exactly. they
But yeah, like a team of wizards, and it's just like you don't even bring a spellcaster to the fight because they won't cast anything.
Exactly, they won't get a chance to. Too many counterspells flying around.
Counterspells, yeah.
Unless you're using up other reactions on shield, because shield is such a good spell. That's like the highest utility first level spell in my opinion.
It
shield,
definitely
mage
carries
armor,
weight all the way to the end.
Yeah. And grease is a good one too. Like, yeah, you fall. Everyone has
definitely going to be
implementing.
implementing.
Grease is great. It's like you turn your spell casting into the Benny Hill show.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can sing that on a podcast. Actually, whoops.
It's all right.
So you've got your illusion savant.
Yes, and the final thing I get is improved minor illusion, and this is a really great ability. You take the minor illusion cantrip, which is already a great cantrip.
Do you get that for free as being an illusion?
Yeah, I learned the minor illusion cantrip.
Nice.
I mean, I could learn a different one of my choice, but it's whatever. It's the same thing in the end.
Yeah, essentially, as long as you pick up that extra cantrip, I'm okay with you having you take X amount of cantrips at first level, and then at second level you pick up.
Since we're starting at second, it's cool to just kind of have it. Okay, so so I get minor illusion, and then when I cast minor illusion, I can create both a sound and an image with a single casting. And that
normally it's only one of them, right?
Yeah, normally it's one or the other. And so it's still a great cantrip. Now I have the best version of it.
Yes.
And that's sort of like I could spawn an image of a goat and then have it make goat sound, so it's more believable. So it's not just like, why is this
goat
still
silent?
Goat? Yeah, what's happening here? Or like I haven't even like put much thought into like how many. I feel like illusion a lot of times spur of the moment. Like it's hard to come up with examples of what you can spawn, but then the moment you're like, this is perfect.
Can minor illusions move? Can you make it look and sound like gold is falling from your hand? Because I'd be okay with that. Personally,
I think within that 5 foot cube, I think it's cool to have some minor movement to it. But really, I believe that the malleable illusion
is when it
at
really
6 levels when it really starts. I mean, honestly, the best ability is the 14th one. Illusory reality is probably one of the best wizard abilities,
where you can just make your illusions real.
Exactly.
That's intense
and so
horrifying.
Crazy. Yeah, how do you? I don't even understand how you could beat that. I haven't played many high level games.
Me neither. I feel like they're super rare. Most of the games that I play fall right around the 3rd to 7th range. It's about where play tends to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah. I feel like maxing out around 10 to 12 is pretty standard from what I've seen. And it's really because 5e hasn't given people much.
There's not much to work with.
There is that, they recently did an adventure, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which I'm interested to try. It takes you from 5, I think, to 20.
Yeah, I've seen the book. I have looked at some of the monsters in the back because there are some unique monsters in there. There's the werebat, which I think is really interesting. Yeah. I think they're neutral evil or lawful evil. One, how lycanthropes get their inherited alignment.
Right.
But I can't imagine running a 15 level dungeon. Is it 15? Is it actually a 15 level dungeon, or does it take you from 5th level characters to 20th level characters?
Yeah, it takes you from 5th level to 20th level.
I wonder how deep the dungeon is.
How many levels it goes? I feel like it's over 20 levels.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, it's totally ridiculous. And I would only do it all right, guys, we're starting at 6 a.m. for the session. We're going to finish, at 6 a.m. the next day. We're going to be 20th level.
A 24-hour game.
Like, yeah, I would love to
intense.
run a gambit,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because you're just sprinting through to the end.
Yeah.
Man, I like the idea of pulling out like a section of dungeon. Like, yeah, you guys are like 10th level.
And you've made it here,
Pull out this much of the dungeon, just like a 4 or 5 level stretch that is like its own interior adventure.
Oh, yeah.
Is that kind of... I would like to assume that's kind of how the book is laid out. There
is
little
a
adventures
storyline
inside of it.
Yeah, there's a storyline for like each level, kind of.
That's very cool.
And some of them connect, some of them are standalone.
That's intriguing.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and at the very end, there's the mad mage who's like, what are you doing in my house?
Halaster Blackstaff, right?
Something like that.
Some crazy Ferunian.
Some guy's forgotten the reason why he did anything.
Man, the fucking Forgotten Realms. I love the Forgotten Realms, but the names are ridiculous.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Halaster. What? A Volothamp.
Volotham Godard. Actually had him appear in the Storm King's Thunder game. He traveled with the party for a little bit.
That's very cool.
He was a very flamboyant explorer, but he definitely, the second he went unconscious for the first time in a fight, he left the party. He was like, I'm quitting you guys.
You guys are dangerous.
Exactly.
Get the fuck out of here.
Even though he was kind of the catalyst for them getting into a certain situation, which is sort of I think that's like lore-wise friendly for him. Like whenever he shows up, the party gets in way over their head.
Yeah,
he's usually like the speller of doom. He's like, come follow me on this adventure. And then they're like, all right.
Sure.
And then it's like, oh, God.
We're going to die, all of us. Yeah. Apparently that's what the disclaimer in the front of Volo's, the Volo's Guide to Monsters is alluding to. It's like, yeah, if Volo ends up in your game, your DM is trying to kill you. He's already trying to kill you, but now he's going to do it better.
Yeah.
So, have you thought of a name for your gnomish illusionist?
Yeah, I got to go back to
the gnome section.
Actually, gnome section, because I'm really bad at coming up with names. Like I can come up with like a meme name, like baby legs, but I don't really want to do that.
I appreciate that. I've had some memers before, and like I'm cool with silly stuff.
But then again, these gnome names are ridiculous.
Gnome names are ridiculous already.
I actually see one that I'm totally in on. Namfoodle.
Namfoodle?
Namfoodle.
Do you go by Nam for short, or do you go by Foodle for short?
I don't really appreciate someone shortening my glorious name. I will require everyone to call me Namfoodle.
I'm cool with that.
And then, some clan names are pretty good. Mernig. Namfoodle Mernig.
That's a super Ferunian name, man.
Right? It's ridiculous. With the nickname of... Nipper. A silent F on the front.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And this is in the book, so I'm not even like trolling right now.
I know, that's amazing. It's gnomish names, and especially Ferunian gnomish names.
Yeah, I really feel like they were just like, you know what? Do whatever. Just do whatever.
Just do like a keyboard roll, man. Just face roll the hell out of that.
Exactly.
Man. So I think Namfoodle is complete, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna roll probably do standard health. Honestly, I don't want to take chances with a wizard.
I understand that because you've got at first level you've got 8 HP, and then standard would get you another 6, so you're at like 14, right? Yeah. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
That's not bad for a second level wizard.
That's right. And then choosing some stats later. I think I'll pick the standard like Arcana.
Yeah, Arcana and maybe History. History is always a good one in my opinion, and it synergizes well with your Artificer's lore.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah, and I think we're complete. Not going to be using any weapons because my mind is the greatest weapon I ever have. Obviously.
What cantrip do you think you could go with? I've seen Infestation is one of my favorites from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. You just summon a swarm of biting, stinging, poisonous beetles. Or
is that a cantrip?
That is a cantrip. It only does a D6, and it's a poison damage cantrip. It's pretty weak. as it goes up in level, but it's very, very flavorful.
Yeah, I think the standard Firebolt.
Firebolt?
Just to grab that.
The Wizard's D10.
Yeah, exactly. Just grab some solid damage I can do whenever if I'm concentrating on something and just have a freebie action.
Yeah.
And I think Mage Hand is really thematic.
Yeah, absolutely.
For this one. Prestidigitation is another one.
It's my favorite wizard cantrip.
It's a very great utility. So I feel like those 4 combined with the Minor Illusion I'm getting off my skill is gonna give me some solid options of what to do. Some first level spells, obviously, going to be like some Mage Armor and Shield. Those are
sure.
Those are 2. Silent Image is another one
that'll
be
good.
Is
great, and it's an illusion spell. So
Grease, obviously.
Grease is memey as fuck.
Gotta get some Grease. Greased up gnome illusionist is probably
Jesus Christ. That's a horror movie.
That is a horror movie, man. So those are some solids, and I guess we level up at some point, get into second level.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The second level spells, I'm not sure if we're gonna. It depends on how well this one shot goes and how well it's received by whatever audience this Record Low Rollers
it's
finds.
Gonna snowball into a campaign, man.
I'm fine with that. I can make the time.
Yeah,
and I would like it if all of the other players who you're going to meet at some point, whether or not it's around this table or preceding that, talking about different character niches within a party. Yeah, man. Well, I think that concludes the first episode of the Record Low Rollers podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Thank you so much for coming, Jeffrey. I appreciate you, man. I'm really excited to see this one shot come to fruition.
Yes.
And for Namfoodle to see the light of day.
Namfoodle. I think I'll talk like this the whole time.
Oh, that's perfect.
Because as you are a gnome, you must talk in a cartoonish voice.
I think it's perfect for it. Can you say Namfoodle in that voice?
I am Namfoodle Mernig.
And your nickname?
Fnipper.
Perfect. Perfection.
Yes, try and have a serious moment with Namfoodle.
Namfoodle.
Namfoodle's really racked with inner guilt.
Oh, dear Jesus, what have you done?
I've made a gnome.
You've made a gnome.
Yes. I didn't do anything special, just made a gnome.
It's the perfect gnome. Yeah. Join us here again next time, guys, for the next interview for our next player in the Record Low Rollers podcast one shot. Not sure what the adventure yet will be, but we'll figure it out. Appreciate you guys. Come back and see us again.